where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahamaland to the foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are here live. It's a rainy day in the city of Nassau. I hope you guys are good. We are out here live and in full effect, jamming with you on this beautiful day here in my war paraphernalia, ready to be able to go to war. Because I think it is a war, and I want to be able to have a good conversation with you. Yesterday, we would have been able to see some things that is astonishing. 12 o'clock in Utah yesterday, a couple hours back from us, we would have seen Charlie Kirk shot down, dead. Well, you know, he didn't die right away. He went to the hospital and eventually succumbed to those particular injuries. But I want to have a real conversation with you today. I want to talk today. Today's September 11th. America, the Liberty Bell that has rung around the world and vibrated the membranes of our ears and our souls to this course of their calibrated liberty. That's a lot of words I said. To their course of calibrated liberty, right? Because it has to be through their lens. And this ringing, this ever rich ringing that flowed the world over and gave people the notion, the idea that America, the land of the free, the home of the brave, that sold democracy and liberty in this dispensation and in this era to the world, fortified that with a modified view of how they see it. Not Roman, not Greek, not these kind of not these spaces that exist externally. America has put their own spin on what democracy is. And then they packaged the thing and sought to sell it around the world. In the midst of being able to sell this around the world, people ingested this. I mean, people came in droves from America. It's the land of the free, the home of the brave. The Liberty Bell exists here. The Statue of Liberty. Send us your huddle masses, your poor, your wretched. I can't remember all of these things. But they say this. And in pursuit of being able to identify those persons, because, it was a campaign. It was designed strategically and specifically to be able to bring those persons who were seeking this hope that Dr. Stubbs spoke to us about yesterday. This deprivation of hope that existed, that did not exist, rather. From an external standpoint, America seemed to be able to churn this thing out. America, by design, by strategy, by approach, has been able to bippity-boppity-boo. And poof, hope existed at a time of turmoil around the world. And nobody asks whether or not this was the proverbial spam. This was a piecing together of everything to make you seem like it was the meat of our time. Nobody asked. They merely consumed, looking at where they came from as the proverbial Egypt and America as the Canaan. As the America has always been identified in this era that we live in right now, over the past century or two, as a space where you go for liberty, to find your talents, your strengths, the opportunities, the value in which you have for yourself and what you believe that exists within you. You could be able to find gold and diamond within yourself in America because people would pay you those particular prices. Now, this was a campaign. And this campaign was designed to be able to build America. All right? And so they had to be able to get, the destitute, those particular persons who are looking for this modified, generic type spam of a hope that they were selling out. Like the government cheese that they had. Always had side effects in yesteryear. It always had side effects. We would have heard about this government cheese. We heard about this sugar that they used to use and stir for hours and it never dissolved. We heard about these stories from America. From America. And this hope that they gave the entire world existed in the same space. It was processed. No one knew it. I remember in 1992, Hurricane Andrew. We got in America. My entire family traveled together, and we were in America and traveling. I think we went up north someplace. Had a good time. My mother and my father did not come, but we went with Grammy and my uncles and so forth and so on, and all of us lived together, so it wasn't a big deal. And so we went up north, and going up north, we hung out for a little while. We came back down, prepared to be able to go back on the Discovery Sun to get back home, right? This was the time that we were in. So we were Grammy, and my grandfather was there, and my uncles, and his wife. We had a good time, man. We enjoyed ourselves and my cousins. And the hurricane hit, and we couldn't get home. The hurricane was there, and we couldn't get home. And we needed to find a way to be able to get home, but we couldn't. We stayed at the Miami Airport Inn. I'll never forget this. My uncle Oliver, he had to make a determination as to whether or not to park this car, right? And he said, I think we should park it under the tree. And my grandfather said, no, don't park it under the tree, right? This tree looks sturdy, right? Humongous tree, right? It looked like one of those big rubber trees. And he decided not to park it. He just said, okay, let's leave it right now out in the open. So he put it out in the open right there. The next morning, the tree was on the ground. The next morning, this humongous tree was on the ground. And we were in the Miami airport, just, the power had cut off. We were just looking outside, and, the sky during a hurricane, I think many of us, if not all, know the variations of what we see in the atmosphere during this time. And so we were looking outside in amazement as young children and being able to do that. But at some point during this trip, it wasn't fun anymore. My grandfather likes to kind of make tuna when he was living with us, he'll always have the saltine crackers. He's an old guy. And he would give us saltine crackers and sausage and saltine crackers and bologna. He used to love bologna. And we would go on the beach for picnics and whatnot with my grandfather. But we couldn't find the bologna. Now, he got the saltine crackers because he always keep a stash, right? But we couldn't find the bologna. And we bought something the first time because America had, playing these commercials. Spam. We bought something. Spam. And being the fat child that I am, I was, I had to steal a can of Spam for myself. I just want to be very clear with you. That thing tastes delicious when I hit my mouth the first time. I promise you. I said, what? It was a foreign taste. It wasn't corned beef. It was a little sweeter. I said, what is this? Spam. And before I could get to the end of that one can of Spam that I sought to be able to kind of, set aside for myself, like the mammon from heaven, the manna from heaven, right? before I could get to that particular space. I was stall of this thing. It was horrible. I couldn't even make it to the end of the can. That thing tastes sweet in the first few bites, but that was horrible. This is the liberty and the democracy that is sold around the world. This proverbial spam. That's great for the first few. Tastes good. But you could never make it to the end of the can. You have to it's an acquired taste. That's what people tell you. When it sucks and it's horrible food, they say, well, this is an acquired taste. Yes, if you eat manure, this is the acquisition of that taste. America has shoveled off this concept of democracy the world over, and people from places where religion is rich and goes back centuries and centuries and millennium, where they're tethered to their faith and they know the God of their father's father. That don't have to be Jesus Christ. That don't have to be Yahweh. That don't have to be Yeshua. That could be whoever. But because this religion was so rich in their particular space, they can travel back generations and identify their faith. And here comes spam. I mean democracy. Same thing, interchangeable. And with the first bite, with the first taste, it may be even like the fruit in the Garden of Eden, where your eyes were open to the possibilities of empowerment, of being able to identify something that you've never imagined before in your entire life. And you say, oh my God, I got to get to America. I got to get there. And you do whatever you can. You save your money. You focus. You could watch people around the world changing their language. They're learning English. And not just the Queen's English. Not the Queen's English. They don't want nothing to do with her or him or the king. They want that American slang. They want that colloquialism that exists in a free space, in the free world. They want to be identified as the liberalist, as free. This fever ran through the entire world, more or less, and still exists in these particular spaces. Some places are further behind than even the Bahamas. You know that we're like 10, 20 years behind, right? And some places are 30, 40 years behind. But nonetheless, there is a relentless distribution of this proverbial democratic spam that is given around the world. And as persons ingest it and they try to be able to figure out a way, how can I get to the land of the free, the home of the brave? How can I get to happiness, the pursuit of happiness? How? And they do everything they can to find themselves in this space. For the most part, this meal of democracy was sold internally first. During the Civil War, they sold this. In the 1700s, they came up with this particular concept and penned the First Amendment. They sold this. You had to eat your own product first. They were the taste testers. And a great deal of them tasted it. And they became enraged with this idea of what America can be. Civil War, all sorts of things happened to find liberty, to find their version of liberty that they sought after. And as I said to you in this particular story, this ingestion of the spam, you become weary of it, of the meal. In colloquial term, I would say to you that you become stalled. I don't want no more of this thing. I've had my fill. In fact, at some point, you don't even want to taste this. That has happened in America. 340 some million people in the United States of America, and 160 some million of those persons are Caucasians, white Americans, lily white. There are variations, and I know you'd like to believe that that Black Americans represents a significant portion, but no, they got Asian Americans, they got Mexican Americans, they got a great deal of persons from a plethora of spaces that represent a good margin of the population in America. I think blacks are maybe third or fourth outside of the 160 some million persons. These people carry legacy with them. Even if you call them backwater, alligator alley, rednecks, they have a memory of their father's father, their great-great-great-grandfather. They have an attachment to them. There is a history that exists in these particular spaces, not in Black America. Yeah, they took that history from you long time. Yeah. You wasn't going to come here and try to be able to liberate yourself to the African freedom. You're going to do things through the lens of what America says. You are the slaves in this space. Talk to me. And what happened is after the first generation of those white Americans that ingested this information, and years go by, and generation, they keep passing by. What happened is that life is a cycle. And there is nothing new under the sun. And so the lily white Americans that shoveled off this particular concept and idea in association with their formal organizations, whether that be FBI, CIA, based upon the allegations that have come across the time, because we've heard it. We've heard about, crack cocaine and the introduction of those particular things and how persons would have bring these things in the community. We heard about this. And all this was a part of the community's concept. Yeah, this was a part of the dominance that America sought after. And years passed and generations passed, and generation after generation became diluted. And they start to drink their own Kool-Aids. This was for distribution. The first generation only had to eat this. The first generation only had to eat this. This was designed strategically and specifically for distribution. And so when you find yourself in this kind of a position, you have to ask some questions. Why the second and third and fourth and fifth generations have to be able to consume this? They snuck off to eat this. This wasn't for them. This was for others. We've infused this with whatever they infused it with. And this was to be eaten by and for others. Now watch this. As the generations shifted, guess what happened? It was an introduction of fatigue, this concept and idea of democracy, the liberty that they sought after, the liberty that they spoke of was hollow. I can't even get no amen. I get in somewhere today. The liberty that America spoke of was hollow. It had nothing. It had no soul. It had no rhythm. It didn't speak to anything. It had no future. It was just existed for this time, and it was only an idea, a fleeting idea, that they tried to be able to clothe it with stuff, with the Industrial Revolution, with building something, with providing you a facade of occupation, with trying to be able to say to you that let's build a corporation, let's get into this. This is not real. None of this. And America began to lose its soul. America began to lose its soul. And in the midst of this sort of an idea that exists here, generations after sought to be able to get back to its core, because we go off a searching as men. Every generation of man seeks after God. And we go off a searching. We go off searching, trying to find out the meaning of life. What does this all mean? Where's this coming from? What can I do here? The meaning of life. And in the midst of this all, they get back to faith, to conviction. But because of the rhythm of commercialism that exists in America as a result of the packaging of the proverbial spam that is democracy, that they sell the world over, you don't see words the way that you do anymore. They've modified it and made modifications to the concepts of what words, we knew these words and what they was existed and what they're supposed to mean long time. But now, based upon conditioning, how we seek the world to ingest this, we got to tweak the word. So faith and conviction and belief and religion has been wrapped up in this concept of conservatism. Talk to me. And so now the conservative who seeks to be able to find his God, find his conviction, find his future, find an alignment, and seeks to be able to speak out for the debauchery that he sees around him, that you have labeled democracy, that you have labeled liberty, he realizes that it has no soul. White, yellow, red and yellow, black and white. All seek after a God. Seek after supremacy in God. Seek after the alignment to get back to God. You, America, label the thing conservatism. And America has done a deed, a devilish deed, to the concept and idea of conservatism. They have tethered it to a political organization. So now the unlearned, now those that don't seek, that live on the superficial, that live on the surface, when they hear the word conservatism, they automatically think right-wing, crazy Republican. And they forget conviction, faith, God. And some that actually boast themselves in their chests and poke it out and call themselves conservative don't even understand the core of this idea and where it came from. So Charlie Kirk, in his pursuit of being able to identify and realign himself with this conservative concept, has found himself in the position where he was assassinated for the same free speech the First Amendment in the 1700s afforded him, for the same free speech that the LGBTQ community, you ain't want to talk about that. The LGBTQ community likens their fight and their plight and their position to the fight of the civil rights movement. I don't even understand this. Y'all let that happen. But you killed Charlie Kirk. You killed the man because of his views. To realign. He was on a tour saying the comeback tour. That's the realignment. That's to get back and see, let me tell you something. Let me tell you how life works. And if you're in spiritual, that's too bad for you. I'm not in your business. And if you don't believe in these things, then that's too bad for you. I'm not in your business. But I know you like a good show. But we can talk. Let's talk. Let's talk with clarity. When the Berlin Wall effect happened, This was after 28 years. The Berlin Wall went up in 1961, right? And it was taken down in 1989, something like that, right? And the Berlin Wall was between East and West Berlin. It represents segregation. There's kind of a separation of mindsets and so forth and so on. And the Berlin Wall was a representation around the world based upon its being amplified by America. The shoveling of more spam. The shoveling, this was the responsibility of all the media outlets during this particular time to be able to identify this. This was a representation of the tearing down of conservatism, the tearing down of segregation that existed in these particular spaces, and the introduction of democracy. So when you identify these particular things, and when we see these things, we have to know what we're looking at. Okay? And so after the Berlin Wall came down and we saw the separation thereof and this introduction of liberty and democracy that exists in all these particular spaces, it was a facade. It wasn't really real. The world championed it, and America amplified it so the world can be able to see that this is what we do in America. But let's talk, man. Let's talk and let's be real with this particular concept. All Charlie Kirk sought to do was to get back in line. That's it. All we seek to do here with the foundation and the realigner and realignment, righteous realignment Bahamas, is to get back in line. Because we have gone far off whoring to and for other gods. It's biblical. We have gone whoring after other gods, seeking the god of yoga. Yeah, because this is do everything. Yeah, listen, man. Let's just be clear. We as men and women in this country have sought and sought after instant gratification. Yeah, we don't want the patience of having to endure and learn and the patience of being able to grow and mature and understand our position. We don't want wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We want instant gratification. And so when I saw Charlie Kirk and his movement, whilst I didn't necessarily always pay close attention to watching him battle bar for bar, almost rap battle, bar for bar at these various colleges and universities in these various spaces, and being able to show how conservatism and conviction is sort of the course to be able to go at this particular point, I realized that those of us who are charged with the responsibility and seek to be able to align ourselves with faith, there is a connection from a spiritual standpoint. When the Berlin Wall fell, simultaneously there was movement in the Bahamas, a shift happening in the Bahamas in preparation for a new government. The world saw a shift. I called it the trade winds of change. Nothing happens in isolation. Go back historically. Go back historically and identify that. Historically, you can be able to see that despite the fact that we didn't have cell phones, despite the fact that we didn't have TV or and instant access to all these things, despite the fact that how communication was stifled by the time it took to get from one space to another, things happen in the world almost simultaneously, as though there was a spirit that's been released. Talk to me. As though there was a spirit that's been released. And that spirit has placed us in a position that now it's time to fight. If you look at the Burma Road riots, you could look at other portions of the world and recognize that there was a fight for liberty at the same time. If you look at the transition of what was happening in this particular space as it relates to empowerment, you could look and identify that these things were happening around the world at the same time. If you look at the independence that we sought after, you could look around the world and around the region and recognize that we weren't the only ones to be able to enjoy this liberty and the pursuit thereof at the same time. This is where we are, man. This is where we are. And Charlie Boy was murdered in cold blood. Ironically, as he was talking about gun violence and asking how many gun violence mass shootings were there. It's peculiar that in Utah, they were talking about mass shootings. Because when we saw one of the first shootings, mass shootings that happened in the theater, you remember that? In Aurora? It was Aurora, Denver. And you wouldn't believe it. I was in Denver during the same time. I was working in Denver at the same time. And they were talking about the shooting. And this thing happened. And so when you look at Denver, when you look at Utah, when you look at Washington State, when you look at Minnesota, when you look at these particular spaces, this is a very conservative. Majority of these particular persons that live in these spaces are Caucasian. And so the question was, how many mass shootings do you think? Those are the questions. How many mass shootings you think happened during this time? And he says, including gang violence, because the truth is that there is a subconscious line that separates what happens in other communities simply because they're living in a different space. And so the mass shootings, and I'd love to see the evolution of that question, the mass shootings that existed in these particular spaces, like Utah, Washington State, Minnesota, Denver, so forth and so on, in Colorado, so forth and so on, these particular shootings that happen in this space, for the majority or the most time, it is as a result of Caucasians behind the gun. But there is another part of America that happens in the extremity most of the time, right? Which is on the East Coast or the West Coast, right? Now you see a lot of this happening in Chicago also and in Detroit, but there has been a shifting in those communities. So the question was good to ask him, hey, listen, do you also mean gang violence? No, he didn't mean that. I doubt it. I doubt he meant that at all. He didn't mean that. He didn't mean gang violence. I mean among us. But what you talking about? Bob. Never got up. It's sad. It's sad, man. It's sad to see this sort of an idea that America waves the flag around the world for you to ingest our spam and you wouldn't dare eat the thing. The thing is for export only. That's it. That's spam. That democracy that America speaks of is for export only. That ain't for us to eat here. Bulla, you know how we just live? And as soon as you decide to be able to speak up and speak out about the authenticity of how democracy should be able to exist and how it should work, I can't believe that you're taken out in 2025. Let's have a good show today, guys. We want to be able to talk about it. Charlie Kirk has passed on. I'll show you a little picture. Let's take this commercial break and be right back after this. We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Grateful to be in your company talking about these things. Maybe this is not your cup of tea to be able to hear about the democracy that exists in these particular spaces. Maybe this isn't your cup of tea. maybe it's not your cup of tea to be able to talk about anything other than, what's happening locally. But it's important that we find ourselves in these positions to be responsible and to be clear about what's happening from the world over. All right. I want you guys to give me a call and be a part of the conversation today. And let me know your views. They shot the man down dead. White, black, green, gray, pink, sunburnt orange. It don't matter what color he is. They kill a man for his views whilst they stand up in the streets wearing skirts. I don't understand this. I'm confused. You in the streets. I just saw this something on TikTok the other day. These bunch of men in the streets wearing red skirts. They stand up in the streets. Listen to me. You shot the man down dead for his view as an individual. And there are groupings of people that run after liberty, that run after this liberalization, that run after this preserved or perceived democracy. And all this is looseness. You don't want to talk to me like this, man. This is the last days in time, and there is an agenda that exists in these particular spaces, and you have to know, Neo, which pill you can choose. Yeah. This is a red and blue season. This is the red and blue pill season that we exist in. And Neo, new one. You're going to have to make a determination as to which pill you ingest. See, 'cause you can no longer come to a fork in the road and remain the same. There is a space of enlightenment. There's a space of impartation. And then you get to the fork in the road. You get to the Y in the road. You can either choose to go left, which is a conscious understanding of who you are and the acceptance of where you are. This is me. I won't change. I'll remain the same. That's a conscious acceptance of that. Because before you didn't know. But now that you get to this inflection, to this point, now you open up your eyes and you could see. And then there's the other course, which is right. And so there, at that particular point, there is this kind of a breaking down and recognizing that the full potential that you were called to, you're not living there. That there's so much more for you to do, that I've gone off course, that I was called to be in a particular space, that I have to be able to help my brother and sister. And so now you decide to be able to realign yourself and get back on track with the purpose that you've been called to. Every one of us has to have this proverbial come to Jesus moment. And liberty and this sort of an idea where the liberals exist, all they're doing is lulling you to sleep. You don't want to talk like this. This is a relentless lullaby to fan you into death. You never wake up. You continue to ingest the proverbial spam, which is liberty and democracy. This idea that life has no meaning, that the only call that you're called to is the call to take care and preserve yourself. And life has evolved in such a space where you don't even check for your family no more. You don't even check for your family no more. Your care and concern has departed. And persons pursue this idea of being able to ingest more and more and more things. They want things. Seeking to be able to stuff it into those spaces that's void in their spirit. And it still don't work. It still don't work. I'm watching these podcasts. I'm watching these particular things. There are women and men coming on there and talking about their escapades sexually and how they've had sex with 100 people and 59 and making fun of it and all these particular things. And there is no value being placed on anything. And its banner is democracy. Its banner is liberty. Its banner is Aleister Crowley. do as thou wilt. Its banner has no railings. It's wide open for you to make a decision to fall into darkness. And only when you sit and you steep in this particular space will you see the light. That's peculiar. The only time you could see the light is when you sit in the dark. That's crazy. That's bananas. That's life. These people the world over, man. The world over. Ingesting. Spoonful after spoonful. And Donald Trump has come back with this particular same concept and idea and says, don't worry about it. We'll go back down to the Gaza Strip. And when we get to the Gaza Strip, we will feed each and every person personally. We will ensure that all the boots are on the ground and we will feed you this democratic spam and simultaneously turn Gaza into the Riviera of the East. Mother sick. America, this is global domination. It started off with propaganda. I dare say this was the fight against Adolf Hitler because he had the same idea. He just was aggressive with his. He had the same idea. He started this off with propaganda. He had the exact same idea for global dominance and world domination, rather. The exact same idea he had. That he stuff everyone into those particular and slaughtered millions of people, Jews. There's nothing new under the sun. We could go back to Pontius Pilate. We could go back to Caesar. We could go back to any of these particular times. There's nothing new under the sun. We could go back to the days of Noah, where the Word of God says to us that upon his return, it'll be like the days of Noah. There was dominance in this particular space and a rejection of anything to do with righteousness. And we could tell that in the story. The story gives us with clarity. The story speaks about the fact that Noah was righteous in God's sight and everyone else was slaughtered. And as a result of his righteousness, his children were sanctified because of proximity. Not because of the fact that it was decent, because of proximity. And they find themselves in this position. Guys, I want to talk with you today. I don't know if y'all want to be able to hit me up and have this kind of a conversation with me. I'd love that. There's a couple of texts that are coming through. Let me see if I can read it. The Bombers is moving to that point. It says, liberals will now start eliminating right thinkers. Whoa, sir, that is a reach. That is a reach. It says, liberal only want their voices heard. We need a Bahamas wall. We need a Bahamas wall. All liberals move to the southern islands and conservatives move to the northern islands. No doubt an LGBTQ or illegal migrant advocate did this. I don't even know if you're serious. I can't even take you serious. I don't know if you're serious. I don't know if you're doing this for kicks and giggles. But I wanted to have a real conversation today and to talk about these particular things. Let me see if my producer actually has been able to play that story. I want you to see that and see how it's happened. Did you play it for TikTok? Did I had it on TikTok? No? Can you do it? No? Because if you can, I can be able to download it and just send it to you. I wanted to play that. I want you to be able to see the mindset that exists. Oh, you did? Anton, try calling again. I don't know what happened to the phone. Hold on, wait. Let me look at the phone. Try calling again. Let me see if I can be able to get him. Guys, the numbers you can be able to reach me at is 827-0111, 827-0111. We are here, we are live, and we are jamming. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what happened, Anton. The thing that me turn off. I tell you, this phone ain't no good. Turn off airplane mode. But the sick all this whole time. I got the thing on airplane mode. I was in a meeting earlier today, and just as I say that, I thought you called. My God, I had the thing on airplane mode. Forgive me. Come on, come on. I don't know what's happening. Let me try to call you. Oh, Lord. Ladies and gentlemen, please forgive me. Look at my phone. I got more tape on this than a box game through Bahamas Air. Jesus God. This more tape on this phone, you would think. Oh, Lord. The phone. See, what happened is that I woke up this morning and the screen fell out. I don't know why and what happened. I tell you I needed a new phone. I'm going down to sell all. Mr. Marshall, I coming down to you. I don't know if you're listening to my podcast, but I can come down to you and get myself taken care of in these particular light. Anton, try to call the next phone. I can hook this up. Anton, if you could be able to hear me, you know the number for the next phone. Let's try to be able to see if I can get that one done and work that out. Let me see if I can hook it up to this. Go ahead. My producer's going to have to be able to give me that. I'm so sorry, man. Guys, technical difficulties. Don't fight me. We're out here trying to be as decent as possible and provide you what I suppose would have been a seamless show. Right? But it ain't happening. I don't know why. It didn't happen. All right. Let's see if I can be able to put you on speaker. Anton, you can hear me?
Howard.
Yes, go ahead.
A pleasant good afternoon. How you doing, my brother?
I'm fantastic, man. This is the first time we can be doing this like this. I just have to hook everything up to the system. Go ahead.
No problem. Gotta get that next one started. BTC.
Man.
Hey, where y'all at?
Hey, man, come on, man. Tell him give me a sponsorship, man. You all send me some phone.
Alive, BTC, alive. You're good.
Franklin Butler.
Where y'all at for the foundation?
Franklin Butler. You keep asking me, Howard, you got to live it. Send me some phone. For Jesus' sake, hey, man. Go
Can you hear
ahead.
me, Howard?
Yeah, go ahead. What you say?
Howard.
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead. I'm right here.
Howard.
I'm right here. Go ahead, Anton. Right here.
You're good. Franklin Butler.
Oh, Anton, you got a delay on the phone.
I don't know what's going on, Howard, but I can't hear you.
Turn your phone down, Anton. Go ahead.
I'm right here. I can't hear you.
Anton, you can't listen to me. Anton, you can't listen to me through the thing. Let me take a commercial break. Guys, let me take a commercial break and get my phone situated. This wrap up like this guy in the Freeport, right? Let me take a quick commercial break, guys. Gonna be right back after this. All right, we're back. Anton, you there?
Yeah, I'm here, Howard.
All right, praise God. We got you together. We got everything. I appreciate your telephone, your patience, and being able to call in with us, ladies and gentlemen, the foundation. Go ahead, Anton.
So you can hear me clearly now?
Yeah, man, I can hear you clearly. Go ahead.
Okay, excellent. Pleasant good afternoon. It's good to be in the land of the foundation
Praise God.
on this pleasant Thursday afternoon.
Yeah.
God is good. Good afternoon to the Foundation Nation. Now, Howard,
Yeah.
I was listening to you intently as your show progressed, and I note you were speaking about a young gentleman who was assassinated, they say, in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't following him, and so I'm not aware, but I was speaking with a friend of mine who was giving me sort of a rundown on the person, saying that he's a conservative and that he was pushing his conservative message across America. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Right.
He was
And I heard you
he was
speaking-
pushing the fact that there shouldn't be no abortions. He was just really pushing a message of faith. His thing, if you actually read up on it, has evolved. He started this way back in I think 2012, and it evolved to a position where he started this with his one of his friends. I think his name is Kent Montgomery or something like that, and it evolved to a position where they actually had a branch, a religious branch, right? Really being able to have a faith-based branch and having people really get back to Christ and God and so forth and so on, right? So he had a desire to be able to introduce or reintroduce sort of righteousness in the space, and the people kill him for it. They kill the man for it. Talk to me.
Listen, Howard.
Go ahead.
Now, you during your conversation, you would have touched on something that I found to be of great interest, right? Especially when you look the world over, and even when you localize this aspect of the conversation that I'm about to mention, where you said, in a democracy, right? You mentioned that the LGBTQ I, or however they call it,
I plus,
seeks to promote their message, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they use their platforms, and they want their message to be accepted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they don't want to be stereotyped. They don't want to be spoken terribly or badly against. They want the freedom, and I'm trying to speak in as local a term as I possibly can. They want the freedom to be able to stand on their message, promote their message, and live like everyone else in the United States or anyone else who has the freedoms the world over. Correct?
Right.
And so, and you would have expressed that this gentleman was seeking to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Howard, I want to speak on this specifically, and then I want to speak about the last part of what you spoke about in reference to the U.S. and its democracy and referencing it as spam, right? And so, unfortunately, Howard, right here, even in our own country, right, which came from a biased, digressive form of democracy that only served the minority in this country, right? Which is a conversation that me and you had in your previous life on the other station. We had that often, right? And we've also had that conversation since you've walked into your own program, right? And I heard bits of it come out yesterday during your call during your live call with the good doctor. What's his name?
Dr. Stubbs, Jason Stubbs.
Dr. Jason Stubbs,
I
right?
enjoyed that conversation, yeah.
Yeah. Y'all had a pretty progressive conversation yesterday, I must admit. Some parts of it I would disagree with, but for the most part, y'all had a very progressive conversation right along the line of what me and you had just discussed the day before, as a matter of fact, right? In terms of growth and meeting people one particular place, but not leaving them in that particular place at the end of your term.
Right.
You recall that conversation?
Yes.
And that was sort of the mantra for the empowerment, the national empowerment platform of the Progressive Liberal Party, which we use as one of our planks coming into government, right? And which the Prime Minister, I'm observing, has begun slowly and surely to take over because he's not been satisfied with the way things have progressed. I don't know if people see. I had my son to a doctor visit yesterday, right? And the doctor said something to me that I could identify with because I always identify with it personally when I observe things. If you understand and if you have the vision and if you have the knowledge and you can see certain things, then from your line of sight, things will look differently than the person who has no understanding really and truly of what they're looking at or what is happening right before their very eyes. You follow me, Howard?
Yeah.
And I see where Prime Minister Davis has begun to put his foot down because he is not satisfied that all that he intended to come about, even up to this point in his administration, has come about. And he's seeking to fast forward some things to come into fruition, right? Along with all the other good things that he has already done. in this administration. And so I say that to localize it and come back to what we're talking about, right? A lot of persons, Howard, even in our society, do not want to respect or appreciate that we live in a democracy. And living in a democracy means each person is entitled to a responsible viewpoint, not an irresponsible one, not one that maligns people's character, assassinates people's character, falsely accuses people and all that other kinds of nonsense, right? That diarrhea that belongs in the garbage or in the sewer, right? A responsible input. We are all entitled to that. We are all entitled to stand on our personal beliefs so long as it does not hurt or harm anyone else, right?
Right.
And so long as it does not cross the threshold of anything illegal in our country.
Right.
Right, Howard?
Right.
And so I'm saying that to further edify and amplify the point that you made with reference to the young man who was assassinated. We have to mature in our country. You see, even right now, as we are about to heat up to get into the political campaign, Howard, you can hear the Prime Minister speaking this exact same thing what we are talking about right now to his opponent, who hasn't gotten that message yet, right? His opponent, meaning the leader of the opposition. The Prime Minister is speaking to him almost like a father to a son, or like a leader trying to teach the younger leader. This is the way to go about it. You put people beyond politics. You set petty politics aside, and you rise to being a responsible leader in the country. You look at things from a national perspective, not from your personal agenda's perspective. You understand what I'm saying, Howard?
Right.
It's the difference between people who are real leaders and people who just want to show. You understand what I'm saying, Howard?
I understand exactly what you're saying.
It's almost like Howard, the man who dragged the slippers and walked into the bank, right? Tell I have no idea who this man is before them, right? But this man is either a multi-hundred-thousand-year, multi-millionaire, or even a billionaire, right? Versus the person who walks in a three-piece suit, right?
Yeah.
With Armani shoes on and Gucci shades, right?
Right.
Those gold Gucci shades, the flamboyant ones. And the normally would have an inkling, except they're an experienced one or a wise one, to say yes, sir, no, sir, to the person who presents the illusion of success over treating everybody equal and with the same level of respect, not realizing that the actual person who's dragging the slippers is the actual existence of what you are looking for. Or the type of person you want to encourage the relationship with as it relates to banking in the country. It's the same thing in the political realm. We have to mature in our country, Howard. We have to mature in our country. We have to recognize and give respect to everyone without trying to beat down someone. And when you come talking nonsense, then you get mashed up. But outside of that, we have to level this playing field in our country where we practice democracy. Now, I'll end with this, Howard. Moving to what you were talking about relating to, as you put it, the spam of democracy in America. I have a slightly different perspective on it, Howard. The reason why I said it is this.
Let me hear it.
America has a mature republic type of democracy, Howard, where at every level of their politics, of their democracy, of their practice, even in business, Howard, they have the levels of accountability built into their system, Howard. And the levels of accountability are so baked into that system that it's almost man-proof. You understand what I'm saying, Howard? Because
almost.
they have had the opportunity.
That's a deep thing that you say.
Huh?
That's a deep thing that you say, and we could unravel that.
They've had the opportunity, Howard. Yeah, it takes a lot of unraveling and discussion. I'm just giving big bite sizes because of the time, right? Even though I know you're in your own space. They've had the opportunity, Howard, unlike us, over hundreds of years to try and perfect their democracy, to try and perfect their constitution, to review and revisit their constitution multiple times over the hundreds of years. Right, Howard? We have barely done that in our country. Our constitution requires a lot of updating, right? We had a constitution commission, Howard, that was led by retired Justice, Supreme Court Justice Nordich, as well as Casey Sean McQueenie, right? Under the Christie administration. They left at least 70 recommendations on the books that we need to tackle to update our democracy. And there are more, but that's just 70 they left based on the work that they were able to get done in the time frame before they submitted their report or when they submitted their report. We have a lot of updating to do. The PLP just updated its constitution, Howard. Its internal constitution, its party constitution. The nation, nationally, we need to upgrade our constitution. We need to upgrade the level of politics. We need to upgrade how we practice politics in this country, how we fund politics in this country, how we execute politics in this country, how we cast visions for this country in terms of having a 20, 30, 40, 50-year plan, implementing that, tying every government's hand to that, except where they're trying to improve it.
I like it.
And they still got to come out to the people to make changes. We have got a lot of upgrading to do and a lot of maturing to do, Howard, in our country.
I agree with you.
And it takes these kinds of conversations in order to facilitate that happening.
I agree
but
with
it
you.
has to happen. But let me tell you this, Howard. Let me tell you this before I go.
Mm-hmm.
I believe personally, with all my heart, and this ain't got nothing to do with politics, Howard. I'm a Bahamian just like everybody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just how I could hold the PLP's feet to the fire, just how I could hold the cabinet's feet to the fire, just how I could hold our prime minister, deputy prime minister's feet to the fire, just how I could hold the opposition's feet to the fire, and former governments, former prime ministers for the nonsense what they did, and how they tried to come up with the same nonsense on this election campaign trail, Howard. I could seek to bring good suggestions that will help to elevate our country and advance our people. Howard, the United States of America, they have an excellent democratic system in their country. Howard, no one is beyond
It's
it.
a lot.
No one is beyond it. The only way to get around that system, Howard, and I tread carefully in saying this, but the only way to get around that system, Howard, is to have someone who is so strong in place that the people become concerned about doing the things that they know they're required to do in law, and as a result, they simply don't execute what is on their books. That is it, Howard. But their laws are strong as ever. Their laws are strong as ever, and if they are practiced in full, it's next to perfect, outside of being perfect, Howard, because they have had the time and the brilliant minds to review and to upgrade and to do what is necessary. We need that kind of system in our country. We have yet to explore it in our country, but we are well underway. I'm ending right now, Howard. We are well underway with the Philip Brave Davis led government and his cabinet, Howard. And I believe that the people see the wisdom in continuing with the Philip Brave Davis-led government to ensure that the way is made clear for all Bahamians to thrive, to achieve, and to accomplish in their own country, to realize their potential and to come into ownership in their own country. Let me tell you all, the Philip Brave Davis-led government is your best choice. Please don't make no mistakes looking at nobody else.
Thank you,
It's me campaigning. It's me speaking my truth as I see it. Thank you for the opportunity, my brother Howard.
I do appreciate you, my
great
brother.
work you're doing on the Foundation Nation. God continue to bless you and your family to thrive, grow, and survive in our country.
Thank you, my brother. Great to hear from you. Guys, give me a call, 827-0111, 827-0111. If you can, just call me direct. If you can't, the WhatsApp is open. So if you want to be able to do that, please give me a call, 827-0111. There's a lot what Anton says. He says no way around America's democracy. There's no way around America's democracy. And I think I surmise what he says with this sort of an idea that this is a contrast, being able to look at us as to whether or not we have the strength and liberty to stand on our own, or whether or not we have the sovereignty, rather, to stand on our own, or whether or not we need assistance in ensuring that we can be able to find ourselves in the position of being propped up from a global standpoint. And I think we understand a few things with the introduction of Trump, and Trump being able to come in and made modifications when we had the tariff war, right? When we had the visa debacle, coming out of the United States of America, there has been this position and a posture that has said, and guys, if you don't see me on Facebook, I'm on Facebook. Yeah, okay, I'm up on everything. Please forgive us for that little glitch. We had a little glitch, but we're back. So just please forgive us as we continue to be able to move forward and ensure that we can give you top tier quality stuff. We're still working on some stuff. But with the introduction of Donald Trump and his position, and Donald Trump being able to come in and his desire is to be able to make America great again, right? It's through the lens, in my view, of the history of who Donald Trump is. You see, leadership carries, the body carries the spirit of a leader, right? The body carries the spirit of a leader. I'll give you an example. I have a couple people who are engaged with me. I never like to say working for me, and I don't want to say it like that, right? I have a couple people that are engaged with me to kind of push this concept and idea out that the vision for it has been given to me, all right? And this is the Realigner, the newspaper, right? So we got some things that we got to get some stuff done, and some people who are writing for me, right? I got some writers and whatnot, and reporters and stuff like that. They're writing for me, and they sent me information, and for the most part, some of the information actually indicates or shows that they don't understand what the objectives is, right? It shows that they don't understand what the objectives are. It shows me that after all of my speaking and whatnot, they just gone there. And even in the writing, they start to be able to say that this is a magazine. I say, no, this is a newspaper, sir. This is not an opinion piece. Don't wrap this information with your opinion. Be clear. Go out there and get the proper sources, identify these particular things, make sure that we can cite this. If anybody say that this is wrong or whatnot, we should be able to point back to where this came from. Get your sources, get this, get that, get all these things. This is what it is. The body of those persons who are engaged with me has to carry the spirit of me. For us to be able to get to the objective of being able to realize the true vision that exists in this for this newspaper, you got to carry the spirit that I kind of release and say, this is what I want. This is what I see. This is what I'd like to be able to get. If you go contrary, we could try to be able to shave it and curve it and keep kind of kicking you back on the road. If you reject and rebel, then we say, okay, I don't think we can work with you. This is what's happening in America. America has taken on the spirit of its leader. Donald Trump, historically, if you watch the documentaries, if you read his books, if you identify what he's done, he's a mogul. He's a mogul, and he's a beast. This is what he does. You've seen him from The Apprentice. You've seen him in these other spaces. You've seen him on Home Alone. You've seen him subtly on the talk shows over the years. You've seen the pronounced or subtle misogyny that actually slipped out of his mouth. You see him even in his initial run up for presidency and the leap takes to the open mics, to him being able to show you the misogyny that exists concentrated in him. You've seen him. You know who Donald Trump is. Don't pretend with it. Donald Trump's idea of making America great again can only be through the lens of how he saw America when it was quote unquote great for him, quote unquote great for his family. The great again contrast that exists in these particular spaces. There's a clashing when it comes to the banner that says make America great again, but you have different experiences in your household. The Black American has different experiences in their household. The Korean American has different experiences in their household. The Mexican American, different experiences in their household. The Make America a Great Again banner cannot be transcribed to every subsector of Americans. And so he had to identify his market, his niche, his demographic, which was Caucasian Americans for the most part. Viewed as conservative Americans, jumping on the bandwagon, even trying to be able to hit you with a quote from the scripture 1 Corinth. This is what it is. That's what he said. He's 1 Corinth. You know, I like to read that. It's what it is. Make America great again could never be more than what could come out of his head. He holds the pen. He holds the executive orders, almost 100 and some he didn't push out. He doing all these particular things. Listen, make America great again ain't got nothing to do with your thinking. So when you start to talk about this idea of no way around America's democracy, it's ever changing. It's fluid. From one leadership to another, from one dispensation to another, from one commercial concept to another, from one marketing scheme to another. America's democracy is relentlessly fluid. In fact, I believe that is the essence, the nucleus of what democracy is. Relentlessly fluid, changing with time and feelings and emotion. There's no steadfast posture there. You can't sink your anchor into democracy. And everyone has its view. Trump is introducing, in my view, this concept of America and the new dispensation of what democracy looks like. Cold, hard, fast. And saying things like, oh, we got to cut that. And not concerned about relationships, not concerned about treaties, not concerned about anything other than the objective of being able to get back in his mind to what America was. Yeah. Seeking every time the punctuation of what he says, biggest it's ever been, biggest it's ever been, biggest contract ever. He punctuates his conversations in these things, and he is a proverbial older man. We don't want to call the President of the United States of America a dog, but we know the saying. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. And he is settled, content, and sitting in this space. His idea is not to be able to make modifications. I don't know what the hell Elon think he was doing, trying to be able to find himself modified to a system. What the hell are you doing, Elon? He's not concerned about that. The progressivism and concepts and ideas are just what it is. It's for show. But there is a steadfast posture and a course that we will chart that has been pronounced from the inception. We will do whatever it takes. This is the reintroduction of segregation. This is the reintroduction of strategically finding themselves in the position to be able to find global dominance. This is the reintroduction, and we can see this through gentrification. And the ideas of being able to change other cultures to be, this is no longer allowing you the spoon to hold to eat the democratic concept. This is the shoveling down your throat. This is what it is, man. This is what it is. And this is no speech against America. This is the observation of the fruits that existed in this space for a long time. We have all tasted the fruit of liberty and freedom and the idea of being able to move forward from what has been delivered to us from America. And our household is destroyed as a result. Y'all don't want to ever talk to me. Y'all just won't play, won't pretend. Our household in the Bahamas over the past 40-some years has been destroyed by the 52 years. Let's be 52. Let's go to 52. No, I'd be wrong for saying 52. Let me fix it. I'm 44 this year. It should have been 73. In the last 48 to 50 years. In the last 48 to 50 years, it started around 75 to 77. when the hippies started to talk about liberty and the psychedelic movement, and y'all eating quaaludes and smoking dope, and yeah, dude, let's just do it, dude. And the influence of what happened in the music and the spirit that evolved in this particular space, and you ingested this particular information, and every dispensation had its own spirit, its own God ruling over these particular regions and age, this time gap. And with the introduction of these spirits of dominance, and listen, y'all cost me get deep. With the introduction of all this spirit and this dominance that exists in these particular spaces, and the idea of being able to find itself moving forward and doing all these things, and then what happened, right? Yeah. So I'm a king with the Quaaludes. I'm a king, and we can be able to do this, and it's free love, and it's hippie movement, and all these things in the '60s. Then came syphilis and gonorrhea. And America found a way, or the free world found a way, because I don't know exactly where it was, right? It might have been the same thing for penicillin, right? And the free world found a way to be able to give you a shot, to be able to eradicate these things in you, and you could get back to this sexual escapade that you were pursuing. And then here comes the 70s, right? And so you've been championing those things, and in the late 60s, and finding yourself in the 70s became the civil rights movement, and talking about how things could happen in these areas and seeking to be able to liberate. And then you saw the snuffing out of the voices that you had that sought to be able to take you back to the foundation, back to conservatism, back to a space where you understood that there was supremacy over you. And so they shut that down. And then to be able to... see, I keep trying to explain to you something. I'm simply saying to you that these things weren't just casual. They didn't happen organically in the United States of America. And the documents that is being leaked every 20 years from the CIA and the FBI and the other organizations can be able to tell you that this was by design. And so the democracy that you continue to be able to champ around the world is by design, commercialism, to be able to get you in line. That's all this is. That's what this is. And nobody won't talk like this, but this is what it is. And when you start to talk about what happened with former President Joe Biden and his position of being able to batter ram out of the United States of America, and then standing up and indicating that the drug movement started in the Bahamas, y'all don't want to talk like this. This is what these people saying. They're looking perpetually and relentlessly for a scapegoat. And our prime minister, the former prime minister, Lyndon Pinnon, go on to People TV and say, listen, we have 207,000 people in our country. How in the hell you expect me, with the little resources I have, to stop drugs from going into your country where you've got millions and millions of people and you can't do it? I don't want to talk, man. You want to pretend. You want to pretend. And that is what this commercialism and the after effects of spam does to you. It's like the nanobots. It gets into your thinking. It seeks to be able to attach itself to your nerve system and shift your emotions about these things. That's the ingestion of the democratic spam. There's no nutritional value in this. This was in the introduction of faith and the realignment to where we were called to be. This don't even have a base. This don't have no floor. We out here floating and hoping. And I don't know whether or not you want to have that conversation with me. But we look at this. We look at this. And we look at America. The big, the bad, the brave. We look at it. And right after The United States of America has taken on this kind of a position to say, almost threatening people that you won't be able to get access to the land of the free, the home of the brave. You won't be able to taste and smell, taste and see that democracy is good. Taste and see that the land of mammon is good. Taste. You won't be able to do that anymore if you don't comply and don't complain. And some countries rebelled against it in the region. And says, Gonzalez says, I don't need to go to America. Well, he's talking for himself, because some of us need to go to America. And we're willing to do whatever it takes, if that's what they say. What is the value that we're getting anymore? We're lumped in with everybody else. The tariff war that you seek to be able to levy against the Chinese, we're getting hit with that too, and you know our position. You don't play favorites. You're not playing favorites. You're in this kind of a position, and this is what we have to do. Let's talk with clarity. Let's talk with strength. America has never afforded us an opportunity. Never. Okay, maybe before. Maybe when they used to give us that lifelong visa. You remember they have a lifelong visa that they cancel, which is peculiar. You tell me it's for life. Now you cancel it. Lifelong visa. Now we're placed in this position asking ourselves, what's what? Go ahead, Anton.
Hey, Howard.
Yeah, Anton, very quickly, go ahead.
Yes.
What you say?
Thank you for the opportunity. You reminded me of something I forgot to say to you when you were regurgitating your points just now, and it is that the Bahamas, we share a very similar, almost identical immigration disposition as America. The only difference being we are the in terms of military might, in terms of financial strength, we are the lesser, right? But we punch well beyond our class and our weight, right? Mm-hmm. However, Howard, you raised the point where initially, early on in your conversation, you were talking about how America is the place where persons dreamed of going in order to realize their dreams for themselves and their families, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Right.
And so I say that to say, Howard, and you look at how their immigration policy has shifted tremendously. Well, let me not say that, Let me not say that out. What has shifted tremendously is the pronouncements, the public pronouncements, right? Because the records reflect that former President Obama actually repatriated far more than President Trump, right? When you look at the amount of time in office, etc., he outweighed him at every juncture so far. President Trump's term isn't completed, but as far as repatriation, he was doing the work without all of the announcements, right? You follow me, Howard?
Right.
However, right now, in their dispensation, in this current dispensation of American politics, they have a president who's more flamboyant. He's the showman. He's a man of media, right? He knows how the media empire works. He's an owner in it, or a former owner in it, right? Mm-hmm. And he's been extremely successful in it. And so he's making all the pronouncements, right? And he's changing the mindset, the outward mindset of the everyday and average American with his pronouncements, those who follow him and who are supporters of his government and his leadership in particular, right? With his pronouncement saying that America is for Americans, et cetera, right? And Americans are first. And Americans will no longer foot the bills of these other nations who are to be footing their own bills, et cetera, and changing their policy as such in his public pronouncements only to suggests that they only want the best of the best immigrants coming to America moving forward. That's the sticking point that I want to focus on, right? Just 30 seconds. We are in a position to do the exact same thing, Howard.
Yeah.
We in the Bahamas, we have been very friendly to migrants for the last 40 years in our country, right? Granting access, granting citizenships, because it's still not guaranteed that you will receive citizenship.
But
That's
Anton,
why I say-
let's have a genuine conversation here. Are we truly in the position of that? I hear what you're saying, and as I think about it, I don't know whether or not we are in the position. Let me say why. Because right after the introduction of the tariffs in the United States of America, right after sort of this visa debacle and being able to utilize and waive visas as the cotton candy of the region and say whether or not you'll be able to get access into America, and we saw in thought, word, and deed the potential of being able to unite as a region, right? We recognize that America has charted its own course in being able to make America great again, and that means by all means necessary to ensure that they take care internally what is necessary. And we, to your point, have the responsibility of being able to recognize that we can do that ourselves, but we can't do it independently. It has to be a unified effort. 400,000 people pales in comparison to the 46 million people that are in the Caribbean region.
Right.
And if you don't be able to lock arms with each other, then you're still not a voting bloc. You're still not a bloc that can be able to survive independently. We cannot find ourselves without trade in a position. And that means we don't have to trade with America. We could trade with Cuba, and then there's sanctions there. We could trade with Jamaica. We could trade with Haiti, but there are sanctions that America put on us. And so now we're lock in step with America that we have to wait to see what they can do so we can know how we can eat. That's crazy.
Well, Howard, just to go back on what you were saying, right? My point was slightly different. I'm going to bring it more clear right now, Howard. But I understand, and I agree with what you're saying, right? And to just speak for 1 minute to what you said, Howard, we have always been lockstep with the United States of America.
Yeah.
For several reasons. Tourism is our number one industry and will continue, has always been, right? Even before we attained independence, before majority rule, before independence, before Black Tuesday, tourism was our baby, right? Financial services also, and tourism, right? And Howard, the place that we conduct minimum 85% of our business, tourism business with, is the United States of America. So we are always lockstep with them. They have always been our big brother for protection also, military protection. Going back to the days of the Flamingo, God rest the souls of the Marines and leaders of that day. Right, Howard? They have always been our ally and still remain today our biggest ally and biggest trading partner. They have always supplied us with the access to university, medical care, food, clothing, medication, et cetera, right? Going right back to the contract, right? Where we have to build America. Just like they don't call them blacks in America. What do they call them? African Americans in America. That's the historical facts of black. And you spoke about that a little bit, even to say the black minority isn't the largest of the minorities in America, right?
No.
But historically speaking, they are the most important of all the minorities, right? Next to Native Americans,
Well,
right? Who owned the land, right? Who owned the land, who was stripped. And it's funny how coming back to what I wanted to speak about, right? Howard, it's funny, we were once the kings. We were once the queens and kings across the world, right, Howard? And we have been re-educated to the point where we don't even respect nor appreciate, and in some instances, don't even recognize that about our own selves, right?
Right.
And we have been brainwashed brainwashed to a large degree into being submissive to the point where we are today, right?
That's what it is. That's what it is.
And so, Howard, we are still fortunate in the Bahamas to have a majority run black, because we don't say African American. That's the U.S. Black run nation in our country. To have middle class across our country.
Yeah, but Anton, for far too long, whilst we could celebrate it.
To be able to send our children to university locally and abroad and come back to contribute towards further advancing our nation. With all the struggles in the Ministry of Health,
it.
We are still blessed to have our own healthcare facility that helps to save thousands, tens of thousands of lives every year. Howard, this is still a blessed nation.
No, I don't disagree that we are blessed, but the idea of being able to walk in muck and mire and then consciously understand, okay, maybe it's time for us to get off this path and find the original path where our forefathers indicated that they've traveled this road many times. I think we've strayed away from that as this generation.
The original path, Howard, was majority rule, was education for all, was national insurance for all, was access to health care for all. Howard, the original path, one of the biggest plank of the original path that we have moved away from, Howard, is economic majority rule. That is what we don't have. And that's one of the things that you and your guest, what's his name again, Howard? Sorry, yesterday.
Dr. Jason Stubbs.
Dr. Stubbs. That's one of the things that you and him briefly spoke about as well, which me and you speak about often, especially in your next life in the other place. Howard, that is one of the biggest planks that is missing. But Howard, outside of that, and that is happening, the turn for that, the positive turn for that is happening right here underneath the brave Davis-led administration. Howard.
Thank you, Anton.
Our relationship with the United States, Howard, we are like inseparable twins. You know why, Howard? We sit on their border, my brother. We sit on the border of the strongest military might, economic might on the planet. We sit on that border.
The strongest economic might?
It would always be in their interest as a big brother and even as a father, right, to the region, right, to protect their interests first and foremost. But for us,
they have not done that.
But for us in that opening, that remains to protect our own interests. And listen, Howard, I'm not talking about the relationship between us and other Caribbean leaders. I'm speaking about the Bahamas right now. Listen, Howard, there's much for us to gain, because of our strategic location and relationship and access. Yeah. Much for us to gain and much more to develop between us and the United States of America, Howard, while maintaining our relationship with our brothers and sisters in CARICOM. I end right there, Howard. But
I appreciate you.
Robert, and all you've said and all I've said, and it's certainly ain't enough time to do that today. But blessings, my brother.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for your telephone call. That's Anton again, guys, calling in. Let me see if I can read something from C. Allen. C. Allen put up here, it says, if the government led by Philip Brave Davis truly possesses the capability to enact meaningful change, then why have they not put forth a comprehensive and actionable plan to realize their objectives? The more troubling question arises, is it more concerning to deal with someone who lacks the necessary skill, or is it even more disheartening to confront a capable individual who chooses inaction despite their potential? A more capable individual who chooses inaction despite who are you talking about? Who's the capable individual who chooses inaction? Because that's what you're asking. The more troubling question arises. It is more concerning to deal with someone who lacks the necessary skill, or is it even more disheartening to confront a capable individual who chooses inaction despite their potential? But see, Alan, potential is just what it is. Potential, nobody know it exists. Potential, just like erectile dysfunction. Everybody has the mechanisms to be able to get busy, but you have erectile dysfunction. So you only have the mechanism which equates to the potential. You can't activate that without an activator. Whether that's Cialis or Viagra. No need to talk about potential. You can't say I'm a capable individual who chooses an action despite their potential. You don't choose an action. You only could choose an action because that's all that exists to you. Because you didn't know that you had the potential. So you chose not to. Well, baby, I really don't feel like I'm up to it. That's not a real thing. That's not this. What you're saying to me, I hear what you're saying. But the only thing that you have access to is an action because you only have potential. And potential sits dormant. It does nothing. Unless an external entity moves it, this physics, this is simple, moves it to make it kinetic. And after the kinetic movement, now you understand, oh God, I could do this. I didn't know I could do this. And then you make moves. And you start, boom, chicka, wow, wow. Yeah, talk to me. Yeah. I can't tell you. You see what you right here? Or is it even more disheartening to confront a capable individual so you know the potential exists in him or her who chooses an action despite their potential? So you know the potential exists in him or her. They can't see the potential exist in themselves. They choose to sit in a place of contentment and comfort like everybody else. And you are disappointed in them because they don't go higher. They didn't know they had a higher to go. Nobody ever tell them, you could do this, baby. Anton and others have suggested that the Prime Minister Davis is capable of bringing about meaningful change. I ask why he hasn't. Guess he has not been able to rise to the occasion. I suppose pun is intended. But I don't know whether or not I agree with you. And I want to stay away from, and especially because I'm in this kind of a space right now, I want to stay away from, because, well, to hell with what people think. I just want to tell you the truth. The sentiment that exists on the ground, the sentiment that exists in the city, is only a perpetuation of an insatiable appetite for us to have more. I'm not the only one that's fat in this country. Let's just be very clear. Even people who were slim fat now, you just slim fat. There is an insatiable desire, and that's based upon the appetite. That's based upon the commercialism that we've ingested. That's based upon the democratic spam that we've eaten over the years. We want more. We want more. Because with this spam layered in like a parfait, squeezed into this kind of a space, is capitalism. And capitalism is a relentless pursuit of being able to get more. Entrepreneurialism. All these things are wrapped into this layer of what we ingest from America, this democratic spam that we've ingested from America. And so as a result of that, locally, when we look at leadership, we want more. Now, despite the cries that exist from those who don't feel as though they've had sufficient, not because they ain't had nothing. I'm talking about right now. I'm talking about right now in this country right now. There are many who don't feel like they've had sufficient. And so they fighting and they rowing and they cussing, whether that is quietly and privately to their people or publicly, and saying that, this government's supposed to do this and that, and they never do it or whatever, right? But let's just shoot straight. If you want to be honest, ask yourself and compare this dispensation of leadership by Philip Brave Davis to the dispensation of leadership that was, and that, FNMs will continue to tell me this, that was marred by the twin pandemics, right? Dorian and COVID. For the former administration, or even Perry Christie's administration, who has put a great deal of his eggs in the basket of Sarkoz's Marillion. And even before that, where Hubert Alexander Ingram would have put all of his baskets into the redevelopment and modeling, this has always gone back to pouring resources into the tangibles. Pouring resources into the infrastructure and never taking time to be able to pour into the intangibles, into individuals, into concepts. Yesterday, Dr. Jason Stubbs was telling us about this kind of a prevention for, yesterday was World Prevention Suicide Day. Suicide World Prevention Day, or however they kind of structure it. And so we were having conversations about some of the steps that we could take. No one has instituted a sense of language. These things ain't important. What's important is more schools. What's important is you ain't getting wet when it rains. You're not exposed to the elements. But now you're cooped up in this place and you're fighting with demons in your head and your space because no one has created avenues and no one has empowered individuals to assist us with that. Let's shoot straight. Over the past 15 to 20 years, I have not heard, the last time we've heard any level of contentment in our society was in 1997, 1997, 98, and then 99, it started to go down. By the time we hit 2002, the FNM was out. 1997, 1998, 1999, by the time we hit Y2K, we saw the FNM being able to lose steam. So if you compare this, over the past 25 years, the Davis administration has been able to quench the social desire better. Now, I don't know whether or not this is as a result of people just saying, to hell with government, they've become disenchanted with the government and pursuing these things, but we don't hear this kind of a rah-rah siskumba socially like we would have heard it before. I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. Yeah, man, I put Prime Minister Brave Davis to task. I tell him that his campaign that goes externally is a polished campaign. And I tell him this. And I tell him I put you to task. And I watch him shift. Well, not maybe because of what I say, but it definitely was rich in the atmosphere. Why you keep going away? There's issues to deal with here. Why you keep doing this, and this? Now, there are many FNMs who would say, well, I never get nothing, and they don't give me nothing, and my God, I is a civil servant, and this and that, and the next thing. The same FNMs who get opportunities when they're in, who will reject PLPs right off the top. Come on now. Same FNMs crying for a little job and saying what the PLP wouldn't do. But when you was in and had your red plate and sitting in the position of power to make decisions and sitting over this and sitting over that, and some PLP known came to you and say, man, listen, man, I know we're on different sides of the fence. And you say, yeah, man, I can take care of you. And you go back to your friends, drink tea, and eat prime rib. You wouldn't believe this ass come to me today. Fella come to me today and he talk about, I must what? Boy, look here, better wait if the PLP come in. Now, bam, the shoe on the other foot. Let's talk, man. Let's be very clear in this country. Let's clear in our position. Let's clear. There's no need to be able to relentlessly lather these people down with the soap of lotioning, right? There's no need to lather them down and wipe them down nice and neat with this relentless lotioning that you do. Let's be real with this. Let's be real with this. My expectation is that the PLP is going to kick up distribution of funds for entrepreneurialism. How do I know that? I've been sitting down talking to people. And after that happens, all those young people who are looking at things to be able to do for themselves and they find themselves empowered, especially if a low percent, the FNM is doing nothing to be able to get a higher percentage of people out to vote. They're doing absolutely nothing. Zero, zilch, nada, nothing. They're not encouraging people. There's nothing being done. You're watching Pintar talk on the thing. You're watching him get his hair cut. You're having these casual conversations. And no matter where he is, he still speaks in the same cadence. He still speaks in the same rhythmic position. You still you. You ain't never loose your necktie. You ain't never relax with the people. Because you don't talk like that in person. So the camera's always on. I read this last thing for me. It says the conditions during each period of governance were never the same. So no competent comparison can be made. Similar is not the same. This is what he's saying. The question before that, he says, evaluate individuals based upon their stated capabilities, not their achievements or failures compared to others. And then he asked me, prior to that, he says, they suggested the Prime Minister is capable of bringing about meaningful change. I asked why he hasn't. I'm simply saying to you that there is a shift in society. And I compare the time that existed where no shift exists at all, especially if we look in contrast. So the comparison is not for the individuals. The comparison is for the times. And though that there was extenuating circumstances, external events, whatever happened, the times. In 1992, no matter what was happening around the world, we was balling. In the 80s, we were doing well. Despite your hatred for the PLP, we were doing well. As the 90s progressed and we saw that depletion, we got into this era. And it's been one anchor project after another, one concept after another, tethering yourself to all these external entities and big business, never thinking about innovation, never thinking about inclusion. External entities such as the IMF and the World Bank and the IDB have to be able to say to the government, you need to tap into entrepreneurialism or we ain't giving you no money. You need to do this or we ain't giving you no money. This is what's happening in this country. But this administration may be doing things a little bit different. I feel like they are. Let's talk about that. Guys, I want to be able to join you. I want you to join me, rather. Tomorrow, God's Spirit, right here on the foundation. It's going to be Friday. We're going to jam into some things and talk about that. I'm looking forward to it. Let's do that. And rest in peace, like I said, to Charlie Kirk. We see tomorrow, God's Spirit, right here on the foundation.
I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahama land to the foundation.